Go ahead, Kathy, are you ready?
Ready.
I'm gonna call this committee meeting, utility committee meeting to order. Can we do a roll call?
Walter,
Here?
Hampshire,
Here.
Barso,
Here. Okay, and can we stand for the pledge, please? Chris, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. All right, Chris. It looks like we got a full plate in front of us here. You wanna go ahead and start with the bulk water rates?
Yes, sir. So I'm sure most of you remember, this is Trent Howell. He's our assistant superintendent. The bulk water point was his concept, and he is here to give you an update on where we're at and what we'd like to talk about tonight. So I'm gonna throw it over to Trent.
Okay. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Good. So I'm here to talk to you, most specifically about the rates involved with our bulk water system. In the packet, the first section of paperclip there's a couple things in there. The first thing you'll see would be the map of where the bulk water point, we are looking at putting it. The second is the brochure for the option that we are looking at. We're still gathering a couple more options maybe, and quotes as well. The third one is the quote for that brochure that you just saw. Of course, there's a couple other ones, we're still waiting on quotes to come through. And then the last one is the Codified Ordinance that deals with the rates. Let's start with that one. The very last page. Very last page in red is what we're looking at changing or adding, as you see down at the bottom for 22 and 24, adding to our out-of-town rate $3.25 per 1,000 gallons of water sold through that bulk water station.
Trent, let me ask this real quick. Did you say adding to our out-of-town rate or saying that the bulk water rate is $3.25 more than our out-of-town rate?
More than our out-of-town rate.
Okay, so the out-of-town rate does not change.
Right.
Got it, thank you.
So that rate puts us very competitive, of how we kind of talked through it, Chris and I, with some of our surrounding bulk water sales, that with Heath right now, when I talked to them, called and talked to them, they are at $10 per 1,500 gallons. But they are talking about, and looking to raise it to $15 per 1,500 gallon, which puts it about a penny a gallon, which is what we'll be real close to. We'll be real close to just a tick over a penny a gallon. Johnstown is at $12 per 1,000, and Newark is at $5 per 748 gallons. They measure a little different how they bill. So what I'm looking for tonight is your guys' opinion of what we've come up with here, with the out-of-town rate plus 325. Let me talk a little bit about the 325. The 25 we kind of added on there to offset the station that we're looking at will be equipped with a credit card machine, so that the haulers can pull up, swipe their card, input how many gallons they want, and then they're good to go. Every transaction was a 2% on amount sold, so that 25 cents covers us on that. So I think that Chris has talked to you a little bit about the station, but it is a 3-inch fill, all enclosed, good for winter. And then, where we're looking at putting it, on the drive to Plant 1, if you're all familiar. Chris did a real good job labeling these for us. We put it far enough up the lane there that if we do get a large influx of trucks, we will not affect 310, you know, if they back up or whatever out the road there, we shouldn't. Well, hopefully we do, I guess, to sell the water. But that's what you know, the main reason to come here tonight would be to, get you guys to, set a motion to accept these rates, so that Chris can bring it to next meeting, get this ball rolling on the rates.
Okay, I got a couple questions. Let me, first, does it cost more to sell to a bulk user rather than an out-of-town user?
Actually, it's cheaper to sell to bulk because it's right at the plant.
That's what I would think also.
Has to go through very little distribution
So
to
there's
get there.
very little, maintenance on our facilities. And our idea with this bulk water, point of sale was to actually sell water and sell lots of it.
Right.
Because we have lots of water to sell. So, I understand that you've given us a couple of numbers that were more than what you guys are proposing. But are there numbers that are less than what you guys are proposing?
So Nork would be less. Nork's a little less than us.
Little less of the out-of-town, or a little less of what you're proposing?
They're $5 per 743 gallons. I don't have that calculation right here in front of me.
So I think that's real close to our out-of-town rate is what Newark charges the bulk.
Here's the reason why I'm asking, you don't have to go in. My thought is, let's get this thing started and understand this is my own opinion, I'm not speaking, but my opinion would be, get it started, kind of get the infrastructure paid for, sell a lot of water, you know, the more water we sell at a lower rate, the more you can generate in revenue, and maybe actually get known. I mean, this is an awfully difficult, well, not difficult, but it's not really known for coming in here. You don't see a lot of traffic coming in here. And so that would be my first point, but I have a second point too. Second point is, do we have to do any improvements to the facility itself? As I see here, it doesn't look like a large tanker that would come in to get filled would be able to turn around. So are we doing any improvements to the roadway or anything to get these guys turned around so that they can go back out? And if I remember correctly, this is a single lane road.
Correct. So if you can see just a little bit would be to the east of where the bulk water point is, if north is to the top of the page there.
Yeah.
There, it gets wider right there. Now, we've sent it off the hall to be looked at as far as, you know,
Turning radiuses?
what kind of turning radius and what we would need to have. That hasn't come back yet, but I have visited a couple of these sites, and truthfully, there's not much more than what we have here. It's basically just a pull off and then a wide radius to make the turn again. But we have talked about that. We budgeted $65,000 for this whole entire project. So I think if you look at the quote there that we've got, that we're not, you know, we're not sold on this one yet, but we, you know, 4470 or 44,700. So then, you know, we'd have some expense of the install, but the rest we would be putting towards driveway. So.
Electricity?
So the electricity, we had kind of talked about, we had a Teams meeting with these guys, and they asked, right just to the west of the bulk water fill point, is our gate. We can pull electric from there. So it's close.
So they just need a 110?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay. All right, that's what I had. Todd, did you have anything?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really glad to see that you put the north on the map. That's really great.
So I can be Todd. I can be Todd a little bit.
So that's awesome. So I guess I don't have, I mean, who do you envision coming and getting this bulk water? What is this gonna be
Philip will,
contractors?
It'll be both, yeah. So
Philip
in the summer,
all
it'll
day
be
long.
full
Philip
fills.
will be there all day.
Okay.
But it'll also be for subdivision contractors that now we give them free water if they'll
So-
pay for the water to move forward.
A couple of, so I have no problem with charging the subdivision contractors money. I have no problem with that, as you know. The other thing that does concern me is Andy pointed out, it's kind of a tight radius here. I mean, if these guys are gonna be, construction types driving these big trucks in here, that means they're gonna be jerks. And so I envision them, you're right here on this neighborhood, the Pataskala Ridge neighborhood. They would have no problem with just driving their truck up into somebody's yard, backing out, and taking off.
So I do get what you're saying there. So this is how the, if you, to the east of the bulk water point that Trent was talking about, where the road widens out, and that long driveway that, for people that will remember, there used to be a barn out there, and that's the driveway to it. That's how our 53-foot salt truck trailer turns around, is he backs into that. So for these water tankers, it will not be very difficult for them to either maneuver using the salt truck's turnaround point, or to come into the plant and use our parking lot to get turned
I
around.
was gonna suggest they could come in, looks like they can,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell, but it looks like they can come in, as I recall, come in and just circle around in the loop there and come back.
Yeah, I think if they come in, they go over by the garage at the water plant, all the way to the west, they can turn around there and come back out. But I think long-term, what we want to do is a proper pull-off driveway, just do a whole second driveway for them to go in there.
But
But in the meantime, I think the water trucks, the water tankers could turn around in the
Okay.
existing area that we have now.
Okay.
But it is valid, it's a tight fit right there,
Yeah.
but, I think it would be more like a 2-year plan.
The other thing too is that it's gonna be, to some extent, it's gonna be noisy. It's gonna be open all the time.
So
I mean, theoretically,
it would be, we could do it however we wanted to. We could turn it off when we're not there and just have it on during the day, or you could just have it like a automatic car wash. where
yeah, I mean,
we do whatever.
again, these being construction types, they're gonna be jerks. And they're gonna come, they're like the people who wanna do construction in my neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
They're gonna wanna show up and with their giant trucks and wake people up.
No, I can definitely see that, and so we could just take the option of not having it on during, after hours.
After hours.
You could just have it on during the days when we're, the time when we're in there.
The other thing I have is with the, thanks, I appreciate that. I wanna be sensitive to the residents here. So, the other thing I have is in the, sorry. The other thing I have is with the rates, because it says there's a minimum bill based on 3,000 is charged for monthly usage between 0 and 3,000. And the water purchase through the bulk water point will be sold at $3.25 more than current out of town, and there's a monthly capital improvements fee of $3. My question is, it's not clear if
Yeah, it's not.
those, I mean, if you have, such and such construction company coming in, they're not gonna pay the capital it's not clear.
No, you're right, it's not.
No, I don't know, I mean, is that gonna apply, and how would you keep,
That needs to be worded better, because the intent was not to have a minimum bill. If they
Okay.
wanted to get 1,000 gallons, they could do that.
Okay.
It was not to charge capital improvement
Okay.
fee, because we're not really using our distribution system to get
Right,
it there.
that's what I was just curious,
Yeah.
it wasn't clear. So
That
I
definitely
would
needs to be worded. It might even be
suggest-
better if it was its own section.
Well, I would just say, I think you just add that in the red and say, the minimum bill and
Mhm.
capital improvement fee requirements do not apply to, the bulk use.
Yeah, that
Just
would do it
exempt it out,
perfectly.
and then it's clear, so. That's all I have.
In general, does the committee feel that the rate is okay as we move,
So I think I would like to address Mr. Walter's comment on the rate earlier. So it is not the lowest rate in the area, but we did talk to some water haulers, and they would have no problem jumping on this rate. So what they tend to do is talk to each other, so they don't all back up at Heath and wait forever. So they'll communicate with each other, and 5 of them will go to Heath, 5 will go to Johnstown, 5 will go to Newark. So by putting us in the middle, we're not the lowest rate in there, but we're still very attractive, and it kind of maximizes our
Well,
revenue.
it's also convenience. I mean, that's why,
It definitely is.
your ATM, you go to a bank that's not your bank and use their ATM, it's for the convenience of not having to find my bank to get my money out.
Plus, we're
So-
closer to Columbus.
Yeah.
Everything in Columbus is more expensive. I mean,
Right,
I
so-
don't think we're way out of sight on this.
No.
I first talked to one of my buddies, he's a firefighter. He part-time hauls water and builds pools.
Okay.
So he's the quintessential person that we're looking for on this. Part-time, he hauled 315 loads just the summer months.
Okay.
That equals out to about $12,600 our money before you take off what it cost us to make the water. We get 3 or 4 of those, we pay for the thing in 1 year. You know, so I don't think it's outlandish. I mean, obviously, he wouldn't come to us every time. You know, more of his business is in, you know, east of here. But, you know, I think it's a very viable, thing to say that we would do well our first year.
Jude, do you have any questions?
Is there any maintenance on this?
There'll be maintenance, but no more than there will be on any mechanical thing. The biggest thing there'll be maintenance on is there's a backflow preventer inside that cabinet, so that none of the, whatever is in these guys' tankers can get back into our system. And that'll have to be inspected every year, and eventually those seals will wear out. There's also an automatic valve in there that's controlled by the control panel, as they want 1,500 gallons, it shuts off. Those 2 parts will wear out eventually, and we'll have to replace them. But most of it is a stainless steel cabinet and some pipes. So that stuff should be good for 50 years.
So no more maintenance than we would do on a lot of the stuff that you guys operate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things have to be replaced and.
Absolutely. I don't think it'd be any more maintenance than we'd have, it'd be less maintenance than we'd have on a hydrant. if we
Is
put a
this
hydrant.
something that Chris, that the guys in your department can do, or do you have to call, is there a warranty, or do you have to call the bulk water fill station company to come out?
So with everything, there'll be a 1-year warranty,
Okay.
which is pretty standard, but after that, it'll be bolt-on stuff. So a part would fail, we would unbolt it, order a new one,
Okay.
bolt it on. So we could do almost everything
Okay,
in-house.
all right, oh, that's, okay,
But there's
Just
the
like-
technical side, the IT side might be the only thing.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing anything with the credit card reader or
Right,
whatever.
right, right, I
Yeah,
understand,
yeah,
no, I
yeah,
understand,
yeah.
but you guys have a lot of the basic knowledge like you do with a lot of the things that you have that function over there anyway.
Right.
Agreed,
You
yes.
guys get there and fix it, and then,
Agreed.
usually you come to say, we gotta call so-and-so, because we can't do this.
Right.
Okay,
One of the parts that I like the most is that we're not obligated to anybody. This is not a customer-based system, so if we ever run into a drought or
Right.
a tower
Sure.
fails, and we just turn the thing off.
yeah, we have
Just have to go somewhere else to
turn
get
it off,
water.
just say, hey, you put a notice out there, say, hey, it's shut off, because
Yeah.
we're having problems with our system, or a drought, or we have some
Right.
kind of catastrophic malfunction in one of the water treatment plants, or one of the pumping plants.
Right.
Okay.
So I definitely agree with the wording needs to be better, and I like just adding that phrase on there, I think clears that up. So I can work on, if we can, I guess our big sticking point for that, what I'm hoping to get to tonight is an agreement on the rate amount, just so I can frame the ordinance to move forward with it.
I personally am fine with it.
It can always be lowered if it doesn't work. It can
That's
always
another-
be raised if you guys are getting run over.
Absolutely, it's just
So, I
another
mean, it's at least,
ordinance.
if you guys feel like that's the sweet spot to start at, I'm
Yeah,
trusting.
I agree with Andy.
Yeah.
If
That's an
no
excellent point.
one's showing up because it's too high, we can lower it. If everyone's there because it's the cheapest rate in town, we
We
can
can jack it up, that's
bring
true.
it up. Okay.
Excellent.
When I
And it
talk-
looks like it's about a 2-month process to get this in, so 2 weeks for submittal and 4 to 6 weeks for delivery.
Yeah,
And
that's-
then
yeah,
looking
when-
at a couple weeks to install, you're gonna have a contractor ready to go, you think?
Yeah, so we'll probably just use inch routers, because this is basically cutting in a hydrant. You're cutting in a T and reducing it to 3 inches and then making the connection. So we'll do that with, with the contractor we use for all of our dig jobs. I don't anticipate their installation being more than $1,500 at the most. And then we'll use Chris Peters to run the electric line, but like Trent said, the 110's right there at the gate, it's not that far away. So the big cost that'll be lingering out there would be that driveway component, that I think we can look at budgeting in the next year. And that'll also give us an idea on how big a driveway we should have, how many vehicles we're gonna have coming in. that kind of stuff.
So on the optional items, the top loader, is that something you guys plan on having, or is that just gonna be a quick connect at the,
So we were looking at the top loader thing because you can avoid a backflow prevention
Yep.
device that way. The problem is that feature was a verbal quote, but it was another 12 grand
Yeah,
to
I
add.
figured that.
And so we said, oh, backflow's a little bit cheaper than that, so.
okay.
Also, by going with the backflow prevention cabinet, it eliminates the need for a PTI from the EPA. So that saves us another 5 grand there.
How about Wi-Fi?
So it'll be cell service, and that credit card runs with cell service, is that right?
I think there was an option to go both ways if there wasn't Wi-Fi close, but
You
if
can, yeah,
the-
cell service is easy.
Yeah.
But also the building's right there too, if it were to reach.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi will reach out there, but the self-service option would be available.
Fair enough.
And so basically we'll get it the same way we do credit cards at the window. Once a month, we'll get a deposit and a report from the credit card company, the machine company.
I don't wanna get too far in the weeds on this, but I think if you guys came in and went right, made them take a right, go one way around and come back, then you can put the fill closer to the building, get your Wi-Fi in, you guys will figure it out. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead, we've got a lot on our list here
We
to
do,
go
we
through,
do.
so. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that, we make a motion to recommend to council that the rates, once amended, the language for the rates, be approved by council.
Second.
Walter?
Yes?
Hampshire?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Creek Road Design Proposal.
All right, Creek Road Design Proposal, the next little section in your packet, paper clipped together. First page is a map of where Creek Road is, and a red circle showing where East Side's Force Main and Creek Road Force Main come together and fight each other. I'll explain why that's in there in a minute. The second map shows the service territories for wastewater. Green is Pataskla, yellow is Southwest Licking. I'll explain that in a minute. And then the third thing in that paperclip packet is the proposal from Strand. So we went through the RFQ process for this. We initially went with Hall and Jones and Henry. They had partnered together. Jones and Henry actually removed themselves from the partnership, which meant we had to discount the packet that Hall put together, so we moved on to number 2, which was Strand. They're proposing a preliminary design before we do a full design for the Creek Road Lift Station upgrade. The reason I think that is a good idea is there are many different options, and we're trying to figure out the best way to spend this ARPA money for this lift station upgrade. So one of the things they're gonna look at, the Creek Road Force Main has not been touched since the 80s when it was put in. So it's highly possible that the force main itself is tuberculated, corroded up, not smooth on the inside, which gives us more head pressure to push against, which reduces the efficiency of lift station. It also fights the East Side pumping station force main, which is in that red circle, that connection right there. So one of the things that we could look at is separating those two force mains from each other. Maybe if East Side's not fighting Creek Road all the time, we can get more wastewater through Creek Road and not have as big of a need for the wet well for capacity. There's also some screening removal devices. There's lots of different options for that. So I think doing a preliminary design lets us look at all those things at a 10,000 foot level and decide which ones we're interested in before we actually go into the weeds and design the option that we want. The other thing that they're gonna look at, if you look at the service area map, is future development. So the blue dotted line on that service area map is the South Fork River. The red circle down in the bottom right-hand corner is the lift station. Pretty much everything west of that blue dotted line is gonna have to go to Creek Road Lift Station to get to the plant. Now, a lot of that is undeveloped. A lot of it is zoned to be conservation ag in the comp plan. But with all the development that is going to come from the Jersey Township area up there, we also wanted to look at assuming that maybe that doesn't stay ag, that maybe it turns into a light residential, something like that, so that we can consider all of these factors and design this lift station big enough to handle future growth and the wet weather events we have now. So all of that is a long way of saying that I think the $53,000 offer from Strand to evaluate our existing infrastructure, the way it works, and get all the accurate numbers before we dive into a full design is a good idea. It's a good way to figure out how to best spend our design money on that project. This proposal is on the agenda for tonight as a resolution, should the utility committee decide to move forward with it.
All right, committee have any questions?
Well, I think that, we're talking about old infrastructure, and as we know, every time we start digging, we find all kinds of surprises, and I think this is a good way to figure out what we have there. You said that part of it hasn't been looked at since the 80s?
Yeah, the main force main, the line that the pumps at Creek Road pumped through has not been touched since it was put in the 80s.
Probably gonna find Jimmy Hoffa down
Could be,
there, so.
it's possible. He's slowing down our flow.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to get this, checked out, because this, as we are learning, utility is a huge factor in development, and we wanna make sure we're getting this done right. So I'm comfortable with having them take a look at it and then go from there.
Do you have any questions? So, I got a couple. So, it sounds like they are doing a little bit of work here. There's an installation of about 3,300 linear feet of new force main. And there's also, it says evaluate the following 2 force main modification alternatives. Installation of 3,300. So are they installing anything, or is
No,
that
it's
just?
just the evaluation of that. The two options are replacing creek roads and separating the
So,
two.
if they are going to find out if our old infrastructure works or doesn't work or has problems, how are they going to do that? Because I don't see any TVing in here.
So what we're gonna do is, so we're not thinking about upstream, we also have the I&I study that we just did last year, and that's where we had our TVing and flow monitoring, and we just went over that, so that's good data. So they're gonna use that for the gravity system upstream, along with the, impact fee study they just did, which relates to the comp plan, the zoning. But most of this design work will be looking at pumping rates, pump down rates, so they will, you'll go through the design of what the pipes and the pumps should be putting through, and then we'll run field tests
Compare
and
and
analyze
contrast.
what's actually happening.
So these force mains, what size, do you know offhand what size they are, the east side and the creek?
So east side is a 12 and creek is an 18.
So they could be TV'd though. We could, instead of doing
We-
theoretical work, we could actually
We
look
could,
at them to
we
see
could
what.
run a TV camera through there, yes, we could.
The reason why I'm asking is $53,000, you can do a lot of stuff with $53,000. And including what do you think when they come to a determination, what do you think the engineering will be for designing the new lift station?
So my anticipation would be that it'd be about 150.
So a third of this, we're gonna end up spending $200,000 on something that, if we knew some of these answers, we would only pay $150 for. Is that fair to say?
That's my estimate, yeah.
Okay.
Cause so in my head, what I'm thinking is that we need more capacity, right? So the best I can come up with is we need a giant wet well to put in there, but there are things that you can do. Maybe you don't need a 30-foot wet well, maybe you need a 20-foot wet well, and you separate those 2 force mains. That kind of thing is what I wanna make sure we design what's best for us. I don't wanna assume based on my field knowledge and then spend the ARPA money for something that doesn't really meet what we were hoping to get. So I understand that it is a large price tag to do preliminary design, but I don't think it's an unreasonable price tag, and I definitely think it's worth the investment.
Okay. All right, so it's on the agenda for tonight,
Yes,
so
sir.
we'll definitely probably have some conversation about that.
All right.
All right, thanks. And let's go on to the 2-inch water line upgrade bidding,
2-inch
project bidding.
water line upgrade bidding is the next map in there. It's just to show you the area. We have done this is the 2-inch and 4-inch water lines that are, the whole zone is dead-ended. It doesn't connect between Main and Township. You can see on the map, the 3 red circles are connections that will be made as a part of this project to eliminate that dead end, those dead ends. But the reason this is coming up today on the consent agenda tonight for council is just permission to put that project out to bid and see what we get.
Okay. And so let's see here, so what you're bidding out now is these,
So it'll be to replace the water main that's on Willow Street, Dennison,
The red?
Poplar, and Front. The red circles, yeah, so the red on Willow, that main doesn't exist right now. It just comes down to Poplar and 90's over.
right,
And then the one on Dennison, where it goes in front of the DMV, it's actually 2 feet above the main on Township Road, and they never connected them. So we're gonna take care of that problem. And then Front Street, the main down Poplar comes down to Front Street and dead ends. And so we're gonna connect it to Township down Front Street as well, eliminate those 3 dead ends. All of them will be upsized to 6-inch lines, with the exception of Willow, will go to an 8-inch, That's because it's a 4-inch now, and you can go up 2 sizes without having to do a PTI through the EPA. So that'll give us an 8-inch connection between our 2 main transmission lines through town, Main Street and Township Road.
Got it. Okay.
And this is putting it out to bid, right?
Just putting it out to bid, yes, sir.
Alrighty.
All right.
Okay, the agri-sludge.
Yes, so the agri-sludge contract, so we just talked about the agri-sludge contract at the last meeting, and we talked about how we didn't need to do anything, we wouldn't need any actions. So the landfill decided that that wasn't gonna work for them. They increased the fees at the weigh stations by $4 per wet ton, which is right at 6%. So the contract with agri-sludge expires I believe it expired March 3rd. The way it was set up, we had a 2-year term with 3 one-year renewals. We did the original 2-year term, we did 1 of the 1-year renewals, and now we're in that middle stage. Because the fees have gone up and fuel has gone up, this is the requested negotiation from agri-sludge. A 6% increase is still very reasonable with the amount that everything has gone up since 2019, when we entered the contract with them. And the increase, so the second part of that packet is, you saw this last time, it's the last 3 years of POs through agri-sludge. So a 6% increase on the worst year, which was 2019, is an increase of just under $1,300 for the worst year. So our increase will probably be more like $900 a year to go through this process. Again, the benefit we get from that contract, I definitely think this is worth it and a reasonable request at this point in between contract renewals.
So let me just, from my notes, I pulled my notes from the last one, and it was clear to me that we spent 21,000 in 19, we spent 18,000 in 20, and we spent 17,000 in 21.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to make sure I understand so you're saying that instead of spending, if we spent similar to what we were going to in 2021, it'd be 17,000?
Plus
If we-
6%.
Plus 6%, so you're asking for 25,000 in the resolution.
So the contract numbers had 3 different numbers on there. There was a total not to exceed for the year, there was to the landfill, and then there was land application. And so we just applied 6% to all 3 of those. The resolution is the total not to exceed for the year, which is, it used to be 24,000, with the 6% increase, it puts it up to 25,500, and that's what that request is for. Basically, it covers a bad batch needing to get sent to the landfill instead of being land applied. If everything had to go to landfill, we would need to readdress the issue.
So, okay. Okay, so the fuel costs are, how is that, I can understand the landfill costs, that's pretty easy, you either use the landfill or you don't.
Right.
How do the fuel costs work when, if you don't use the landfill and you just do farm applied, land applied?
Right.
The fuel costs are applied to what? The trucking to take it to the land applied?
It'll be both, the trucking to take it there and then the tractors to actually do the land application. So all of his fuel costs is where he's coming up with the 6% number.
And how do you track that? How do you know that?
Well, it'd be by wet ton. So the price will change to 6% more, and then we track it by weight. So once we agree upon the price, we just track it by how much
Okay,
they
so
haul.
the fuel's not separate in any way, it's all.
No, the only time it's separate is the surcharge clause, which was not touched. It was in there before, but it's suddenly real.
It would be in effect now, because,
Yeah,
the Brandon's, diesel prices are $5 a gallon.
they are definitely up there, and so at that point, we would want to track. We would ask them to show an invoice for the fuel.
That's where I was going with this.
I
That's
was looking at
exactly
the
where
base.
It's okay, I wanted to see how we did the base, and Todd beat me
Yes.
to the question of the surcharge,
Yes.
because that's where it's coming.
Yeah, so at that point, we would just ask for an itemized invoice or some type of receipt to show the fuel cost that he actually
So is
incurred.
the 6% being applied also to the surcharge, or does the surcharge stay exactly the same?
Surcharge stayed exactly the same.
Yeah, the surcharge is based on the price of diesel
Right.
on any one day.
But he doesn't get 6% on
No.
top of that.
Right.
No, because
Correct.
I think that it's pretty clear, fuel escalation clause, So, for example, if the price of fuel rises to $4.10 per gallon, yeah, he wishes, and 100 gallons, surcharge would be $10.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's, I just bought gas at Kroger in Gahanna, diesel at the Speedway next door was almost $5 a gallon.
I anticipate the spring application having extra documentation to back up what they're gonna need.
So,
So that resolution also is on the consent agenda for tonight. So there's 3 resolutions out of this that'll be in there.
Okay. Any, committee members have any questions? Nope, alrighty.
Okay. We move on to the Jefferson Street Waterline Project update. That was just, so today was Monday. They have moved some equipment out there. Law has to start the Jefferson Waterline Project. They've done some surveying for the project. Expect to see them doing some saw cuts in the road. Probably not get real heavy into digging until next week, but it is time. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that that project's starting. We did put a notice on Facebook about a month ago, and maybe like 3 weeks ago, and then we take a door, have full-page letter to every door that touches Jefferson Street or gets their water from Jefferson Street, so everybody would know. And then we put a reminder post last Friday, just to try and get as much word out there as we could. So
okay.
that was just more informational, let people know you may hear some things that the digging should start next week.
Okay.
We also met with the Methodist Church, on Friday, just to touch base with them.
Are you guys expecting, water outages in this area? I mean, some severe water outages, for days, or are you guys just thinking it'll be 2 to 4 hours? What's going on?
That's the hope is the mains, we're gonna do hot taps. So the mains should be fed, I don't wanna say it because I'm gonna jinx it, but you know what I mean. So the mains should be fed the whole time. The plan would be just when we're disconnecting the service line from the old main to the new one, that's all they'll see as a water outage. You never know. It is Old Town. We could have a pipe we didn't know was there and cause a major problem, but that's the plan.
If we do, we've got equipment right there, and as long as you've got the pieces, parts to fix it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand.
Is there any reason, would you think of any reason to maybe put up a message board saying something along the lines of, hey, here's the phone number, or something if you lose water pressure or whatever, because something could happen. What I'm thinking about is something happens where they're working on it and maybe one valve away, has an issue, pulls apart, does whatever.
Right,
Nobody meant it to happen, but as you said, it's Old Town, it can happen.
right.
Those people might not have gotten, in your theory, that everybody who gets water from Jefferson Street got a notice, but
Right.
people
So
don't pay
we
attention.
could do that if the street department's not using their message board. We could park that somewhere in the area. All the numbers were on the letters and the Facebook post, but you're right. If the valve at the end of our project fails, now that next block over that I did not give notice to, won't know what's going on.
Just people that are in that area or go through that area all the time and live that, but if you could just say, look, if you lose water pressure or you guys will think of a good,
Way
just a
to phrase it or
suggestion to
something.
give some people that may not have gotten the door hanger.
I'm trying to think of a way to do, if the street department needs the message board, we'll have to come up with a different alternative for that, but we can come up with something
We can-
to put in the, even like the depot, somewhere next to Chet's, somewhere in that area where everybody can drive by and see it, and maybe they'll think, oh, my water's
Jefferson
down, I
Street
saw the number
Water
right there.
Project starting.
Yeah, we
I
can
know,
do
you
something
know, we
like
could
that.
do, we could give Mr. Gaelic like a sandwich board and have him stand out there.
Just stand out front there.
Yeah.
If we pick a time when the baby's crying, he might be.
I think
willing to do
that's-
that.
He'd probably be all for that.
Todd, I think that's called community service. I don't know that he was one of our recipients of that.
Well, Mayor, you did talk to, the magistrate about that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at him, yeah, don't you worry about it, we got that taken care of, Mr. Walter, it sounds like, there's somebody out there. But that's a good idea, we'll definitely do something just in case.
Okay.
Just that water could be interrupted. Here's a number.
Yep. We
All right.
also put something, I'll make something big and stick it in our message board right in front of the old town hall right there.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
Got that big display case, might as well make something
That's
big in
good
there.
point. Get it out
Yep.
there to people.
Just when they call in and complain to somebody else, that you at least, you can say, there was a board out there, and
Right,
you didn't see that. type
right,
thing.
right,
All right.
okay.
Yep, now you're slip lining.
Oh, okay, so we're down to the slip lining project, we've talked about that a little bit before, this is our I&I reduction method. So we received, we are gonna put in $250,000 of local funds, it's in the budget. We received HB 168, last year gave us $250,000 for this, that's also in the budget. But we also applied to OPWC, and we recently got a letter from the district that they did select our project for another $250,000.
That's what we're hopeful for.
Yeah, and so I got
Exactly what we're
everything.
hoping for, that's great.
Everything we asked, we got, so that's really nice. We'll be able to line everything that's in River Forest and a portion of Oak Meadow, which will be good. The reason I'm bringing this up is to give the committee a heads up. We did not include that last 250 in the budget because we didn't know we were gonna get it. So there will be a supplemental coming, but those funds don't get released until July 1st officially anyway, so we got plenty of time to get that taken care of.
So you said 250 and 250, 250 in the budget, 250 from the district, and what was the third item that you had from?
From HB 168, and that 250 is in the budget. So the budget shows 500. 250 out of our pocket, 250 from HB 168, and then we'll add this,
The 250 from OPWC.
this newest grant, yes, yes, sir.
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Hoorah.
So that'll be good, and then that alone will satisfy the EPA requirements on our permit to address I&I. Hopefully it actually works as well, but. we'll see.
Should work.
It should, the only thing I worry about, I just wonder if it's going to seal our mains and push the groundwater into everybody's leaky laterals, and then bring it right back to us anyway. The private side of things, but
We got it.
I think you have to do something, and I think it's gonna be better than nothing, so I'm just curious to see how much it works.
Alright. Anything else from the committee? Well, we got some time here.
Did you talk about the supplemental yet?
Nope, I've got two things. Right.
Go. I'm
I was
sorry,
gonna say,
I-
I've got two other things that I wanted to talk about real quick. One was from our last meeting, we talked about the strontium,
Yes.
the ghost of strontium past. So have you had any luck checking in with anybody that might wanna look at this as a project or a very interesting conundrum of why are we getting these highs and lows and in-betweens?
So I have not had luck hearing back. I've reached out to the graduate research department and the undergraduate research department via email and have heard nothing back from them. So I've gotta find a better contact at OSU. But I do think it's a good idea. I have reached out to Carla Wisner, who is our compliance rep with the EPA, and she was super excited. They don't have any idea what's going on either, so she was super excited that we're trying to
So,
find a solution.
do we really need to limit ourselves to Ohio State? And I'm not saying that that's a
You
good
know
thing
my
or
answer
bad
to that,
thing, but
Mr. Walker.
Ohio Northern is an excellent,
Yeah.
Ohio Northern's an excellent engineering school. Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, excellent engineering school. We have probably local people that are at both of those, in
Right,
engineering.
right. No, I'll reach out to both of those, it's a great idea. So that's all I did was go to Ohio State, because they're right down the road.
OU, there's a gentleman that, there are, Mr. Alan Haynes is part of the alumni of OU Engineering.
Which, despite that, I guess we
Just-
still could reach out.
The alumni association, because somebody knows a professor that
Missed.
Can't believe
would
Michigan.
be interested, hey, can you help us?
So that's
Oh, okay.
exactly what I'm saying, because,
Yeah,
yeah,
alumni association.
just mention to him that he loses the golf tournament every year. Just mention that. It's okay.
That's good.
So, but if you need help with that, Chris, I'm sure you can handle it, but if you need help with it, let me know. I
Yeah.
can reach out to some people.
No,
that
those are all
at
great
the
ideas.
schools.
I think it's gonna give us benefit, even if we don't get an answer, it's continuing to research and identify the problem, so, and it doesn't cost us anything.
So there's a person at Ohio Northern that I can give you a contact for
I would,
very easily.
yeah, I would definitely like that.
So anyhow, that way we can get, I'm not saying anything bad about Ohio State, but
Some of their alumni are questionable, but yes.
Ohio Northern's a good school.
Amen.
You're welcome, Chris. Okay, now to the other issue.
Yes, sir.
In the supplemental ordinance for tonight,
Mhm.
second reading, I am just absolutely confused by some verbiage in that. And the issue I have is, in the language, it talks about on the second page, third line down, talks about the requesting of additional appropriations in the amount of $28,000.
Mhm.
Of that amount, 14,000 will come from Water Capital Improvement Fund, 602, and 14,000 will come from Southwest Licking Water and Sewer.
Right.
Then when you go to the third page at the bottom, where we're going through on section 4 and section 5, I'm trying to understand, we've got a $14,000 water improvement fund from 602. And then we've got a $28,000 improvement from construction under 501. And I'm trying to figure out how that works.
Ooh, that is a great question for Mr. Nicholson. I'm not sure. It should have been
So-
28,000 total, 14 from us, 14 from them.
Yeah.
So,
So when I ducked out really quick,
Okay.
I think Jamie does have an answer for that.
Okay.
You have to put in, boy, I'll see if I can do it justice. You have to put 28 in to satisfy the grant. It has to do with the grant but it's not money we're not paying them 28.
Satisfy what grant?
there's no grant for this.
There's no grant on
This
this.
is all-
We're paying it.
I thought he said to satisfy the grant, so, look, we'll let Mr. Nicholson answer.
That's, my assumption would be it's an accounting procedure, because it should be 28 total, 14 from us, 14 from Southwest.
And I could agree with you if there was only 28, but there's now a 28 and a 14. If you were saying it was 28 total, and I agreed, and we had to cover both of them just in case the other side didn't do it,
Right.
I can understand that fully. But this shows it as a 14 and a 28 rather than just a 28, of which 14 is directly attributable to us.
I cannot help you on that answer. I can just tell you it should be 28, 14 from each of us.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Ohio Northern is a good university, by the way. All right, that's all I have to say. Any other comments from the committee? Any others?
Any other others?
No, but I think I know.
What do you think it is, Tom?
Pardon?
What do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I'll let Jamie explain, but I think this is one of these where when the money comes from outside of the city, sometimes that causes confusion. I think you'll be able to explain that. I'm not gonna try to do it for you.
Okay.
I think that's what happens is we get these grants, we get money from Southwest Licking, wherever, it shows up, we still have to account for it, and then, because we don't have it yet, I think what he wants to do is have that 28 when we get the other 14 from Southwest Licking. I think that's what he's gonna say, but I'll let him explain it.
Okay.
But
Okay. I'm at a loss on it, so I just thought I'd bring it up, see if Chris knew. Apparently, I'm not the only one that's at a loss on it. Anything else, committee? Todd, do you have any?
no, I'm just looking at this.
He's doing an attorney math.
No, yeah, I'm an attorney, not an accountant. So. I have nothing else, Andy. I'm good.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Walter,
Yes?
Hampshire,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.